Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Navdeep Bains. I'm the Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry, and I'm pleased to be here today to make this exciting announcement related to zero-emission energy technology in Canada. I'd like to begin by acknowledging and welcoming Simon Irish, the CEO of Terrestrial Energy, who is joining us virtually from New York. And I would like to also welcome my cabinet colleague, Seamus O'Regan, the Honourable Seamus O'Regan, Minister of Natural Resources, who has joined us from St. John's. Over the past several months, Canada has navigated uncharted waters in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. And while the government is understandably focused on the present, I want to assure you that we're equally focused on the future. The idea of a transition to clean energy and other climate change-related initiatives, such as those targeting net zero emissions, will be popular over the next few months. And the majority of Canadians, even during COVID, have signaled their support for action on climate change and for our ability to reach net zero emissions by 2050. In step with that interest, the investment community has been actively shifting investments towards low-carbon industries as well. And there is early evidence that the pandemic has accelerated these trends. Without a doubt, one of our most promising solutions to fight climate change and promote clean energy has three letters: SMR. That stands for Small Modular Reactor, and it's an emerging opportunity that has high growth potential. Due to their smaller sizes and flexibility and reliable heat and power production, SMR technologies can provide a clean energy alternative to conventional coal and fossil energy generation, including in hard-to-decarbonize sectors like resource extraction and heavy industries. And SMRs come with the enhanced safety and security features that people and markets are calling for. There are economic benefits to SMRs as well, which will play a significant role in addressing the increasing demand for clean, safe, and affordable sources of energy. In fact, the SMR market has the potential to create 6,000 direct and indirect jobs and up to $2 billion worth of economic activity by 2040 in Canada. Which brings us to our announcement today. I'm very happy to announce that through the Strategic Innovation Fund, we are supporting $20 million and investing that with Terrestrial Energy in advancing its SMR technology. Je suis fier d'annoncer que par l'entremise du Fonds stratégique pour l'innovation, nous investissons $20 millions pour soutenir Terrestrial Energy et le développement de sa technologie de petits réacteurs modulaires. The project, which is worth nearly $69 million, will create and maintain 186 full-time jobs and 52 co-op positions and promote innovation and position this Canadian SMR company as a leader in the global SMR market. In addition, the company is committed to spending nearly $92 million in research and development as well. These are important commitments, and the government is proud to have played a role in securing them for Canadians. This investment will be a key factor for Canada to maintain its leadership position in the sector with Made in Canada SMR. Grâce à cet investissement, le Canada maintient son leadership dans ce secteur et appuie la fabrication au pays de petits réacteurs modulaires. With that said, I want to wish all the best to Terrestrial Energy as it helps us solidify our country's position in SMR technologies. I'll now pass things over to my colleague, the Honourable Seamus O'Regan, Minister of Natural Resources, to make some additional remarks. Et merci, je cède maintenant la parole à mon collègue, le Ministre des Ressources naturelles, l'Honorable Seamus O'Regan.
Innovations in nuclear energy is central to this plan. By building on Canada's decades of nuclear ingenuity, we can open a path to net zero emissions within the next 30 years. With the expertise and experience of Canadian companies like Terrestrial Energy. Just last week, the International Energy Agency released a landmark report showing that achieving our target of net zero emissions without nuclear energy will take a lot longer, with a greater risk of failure, and at a price tag that could be as much as $1.6 trillion higher, about the total value of the Canadian economy. So to seize this opportunity, our government has rallied behind a Made in Canada roadmap for small modular reactors to provide solutions for jurisdictions looking to get off coal, to provide more options to help northern and remote communities reduce their reliance on diesel, to power new opportunities in resource industries, drive inclusive growth, and create more highly skilled jobs throughout the national economy. Canada is uniquely positioned to lead, and Terrestrial Energy and its IMSR technology is proof that. Our investment today is another vote of confidence in Canada's can-do spirit, and another example of the steps that we are taking to advance our nuclear industry as part of our clean energy future. We can make Canada a global leader in SMRs while delivering on our promise of affordable, safe, reliable power in this century of clean growth. I want John.
I'll just go.
Apparently I'm on mute. Am I? You're good now? Thanks. Okay. I want to thank Minister Bains, first of all, for his technical expertise in telling me when I am muted and not muted. Thank you, my friend. I also want to thank him for his unwavering support in making today's announcement possible. And I also want to congratulate you, Simon, and everyone at Terrestrial Energy for your vision and your entrepreneurial know-how.
Thank you.
And net zero emissions by 2050, a national economy that continues to grow, a clean energy future that leaves no one behind. This is our mission. Terrestrial can help us do it. Canada is the country that can do it. I believe that. And I want to thank you all for your kind attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Seamus. Now over to Simon.
Thank you, Minister. So I'd like to thank Minister Bains and thank Minister Regan. We're delighted to join you today, and especially delighted at the news you're announcing. I can recall clearly, as many of my colleagues can, Minister Regan's keynote address to the Canadian Nuclear Association at its February conference. When talking about the challenges of climate change, Minister O'Regan spoke about a common mission for Canada and for the world for a net carbon economy by 2050, for an economy that grows and prospers, and for a global energy transition that leaves no one behind. That is the challenge. And when addressing the room, he also challenged the nuclear industry to take up that baton and shape the next wave of nuclear innovation. And he concluded, we are the country that can do it, and Canada will lead. Minister Regan, Minister Bains, I believe that, and so do I. Canada is one of only 3 nations that has own origin nuclear technology. That is the greatest accolade for an advanced industrial economy. It has been at the top, it's been a top nation for over 60 years. And with that history and experience, it is moving forward with determination to deploy SMRs using next generation reactor technologies. These are exciting times. Terrestrial Energy was founded in the heartland of the Canadian nuclear industry to move forward with a technology championed by Dr. David LeBlanc, one of our founders. David is from New Brunswick, from Bathurst. He is a globally recognized authority on molten salt reactor technology, which is a Generation 4 technology. Generation 4 technologies are nuclear technologies that improve safety, sustainability, efficiency, and importantly, cost and affordability of nuclear power. Our commercial purpose is clear: to use this technology in a market-focused design to deliver a nuclear power plant that is affordable to construct and generates electric power that is cost competitive against fossil fuels. That power plant design is called the integral molten salt reactor. The path we're on with the integral molten salt reactor is to put nuclear energy once more at the competitive center of global energy markets, with the first plant operating by the end of the decade, and we're making clear progress towards that goal. And ministers, thank you. Today's announcement is clearly an important milestone on that path. Another occurred just last week, when Ontario Power Generation announced that it is undertaking further work with us as it explores the role of SMRs for Ontario's future energy needs. We are in our 5th year of regulatory engagement with the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, the CNSC, one of the world's most respected nuclear regulator. And we are a clear leader with our regulatory engagements. Terrestrial Energy and its consortium of supply chain partners, many based in Canada, recognize the potential to deliver truly transformative nuclear innovation that puts today's decarbonisation efforts into a different gear. Not only can IMSR provide clean, on-grid electric power with high efficiency, but it can also supply heat for many industrial processes that are solely dependent on fossil fuels for energy today. In addition, our technology can unlock the hydrogen energy box to produce clean, carbon-neutral synthetic transport fuels. In other words, IMSR can directly or indirectly be the zero carbon energy source for all 3 legs of the global energy stool: electricity, industrial process heat, and transport fuels. With this will catalyze investments for growth, so important for a post-pandemic world, and lead to high-quality industrial jobs, to exports, and to a shared prosperity across a broad front. IMSR technology is strategic to Canada. It is innovative with its use of Generation 4 technology, and this is an investment in the path to realize that value. On behalf of Terrestrial Energy, I would like to thank the ministers for the investment from the Strategic Innovation Fund. And on behalf of the Terrestrial Energy team listening in today, we're proudly taking up the battle and flying the Canadian nuclear innovation flag. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Simon, for those remarks. Thank you very much, Seamus, for your friendship and leadership on this file as well. You've been a clear supporter of this technology, and we're just delighted to have this opportunity to collectively to make this announcement. And now, colleagues, I'd like to open it up to questions from the media on the phone.
Thank you. Merci. Please press star 1 at this time if you have a question. S'il vous plaît, appuyez sur l'étoile maintenant pour poser une question. There will be a brief pause for the participants register for questions. Il y aura un court délai vous permettant de vous enregistrer dans la file d'attente pour la période de questions. Thank you for your patience. Merci de patienter. Our first question is from Maura Forrest with Politico. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
Yes, thank you. Minister Reagan, I think earlier this year you had promised that there would be an SMR action plan released this fall. What's the status of that, and is the plan still to release that this fall?
Yes, it will be released this fall. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Can you be any more specific on the timeline? And then my follow-up is, what are you planning to do to support small modular nuclear reactors beyond individual funding commitments like this one? You've talked a lot about SMR over the last several months. What more can we expect that your government will do?
Well, I won't scoop myself and reveal perhaps what is going to be coming up in the action plan. But no, I'm impatient for it to arrive as well. My officials are working on it, and we are on target to have it released this fall. I'm delighted that there is so much interest in it, and particularly amongst the provinces, New Brunswick, Alberta most recently, Ontario, of course, and Saskatchewan too, all keenly interested in the potential of small modular reactors. And we'll be working with them as well as working with some with I think affected and interested Indigenous groups as well. We're also working, I should mention too, on consultations regarding our radioactive waste policy. Those consultations with Indigenous groups are occurring, and I think I'm going to be meeting with the Algonquin in the Ottawa Valley. I'm hoping to meet with them in the next few weeks as well, as I understand it, in the next few weeks, perhaps the next couple of weeks, we'll have an announcement on SMRs from the First Nations Power Authority in Saskatchewan. There's a tremendous amount of momentum around SMRs and the potential of continued zero emission power in Canada.
Thank you. Merci. Once again, please press star 1 at this time if you have a question. De nouveau, n'hésitez pas à appuyer sur étoile 1 pour toutes les questions. Our next question is from Mia Ratson with the Canadian Press. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
Hi, I'm curious. I think, Minister O'Regan, you said that you don't see a path to net zero in Canada that does not include SMRs. But how do you convince Canadians of that? There are many people who object to the idea of adding a lot of nuclear power to the zero emissions energy sector.
Well, I would say, if you, Fadi Birol is the head of the International Energy Agency, and he said most recently that we don't have the luxury of choosing any one thing. SMRs are part of a whole host of things that we are going to need in order to be able to meet our targets in 2030 and in 2050. SMRs provide us with a safe and reliable and proven technology that is, keenly is zero emission. And that, I think, is something that we didn't appreciate about the nuclear industry in decades past, as fully as we do now. The fact that it is zero emitting. As I said, we are reviewing our radioactive waste policy to make sure that it adheres to the highest international standards. And our consultations with First Nations will be absolutely central in that waste policy. And I think that that's something, when you look at it, that concerns Canadians. So, we do have to make sure that Canadians trust this power system. But, there are millions of people, as Minister Bains knows, who are in Ontario particularly, who are powered by nuclear energy. And it has been a source of zero emitting power for quite some time. There are countries like France, for instance, where it provides roughly, I think, over 80% of its power. So making sure that it is safe and it is reliable. SMR technology allows us to minimize the amount of waste, and in some cases has the potential to recycle nuclear waste. Those are very, very important, and I would argue attractive elements of SMR technology.
Thank you for that. And I'm also curious about the timelines. I mean, we're 10 years away from our next climate target. Are you really looking to the net zero target with SMRs, or are you hoping that there is time to start having them contribute to hitting our 2030 targets as well?
Well, with SMRs, I would say we know that this is the beginning of an evolving technology. We know that the onus is on us now, though, to make these investments now. Canada is a tier 1 nuclear nation. Not only is its technology, its CANDU technology, revered around the world, so is our regulatory regime. That is not just, a good regulatory environment. It is actually a competitive edge for us. So we would be foolhardy to squander a clear competitive edge that we have in the nuclear sphere. And so, this is a technology as it evolves that we see, getting us ready for 2030, but certainly we will need for 2050. And something that I believe, if we can get it right and continue to be the leaders in nuclear technology that we are, it will allow us to help the world get to 2050, get to net zero by 2050.
Add to that, I think Seamus is absolutely correct. This is one of several different tools we have in our toolbox to demonstrate very clearly that we have a plan to not only meet but exceed our 2030 targets and to get to net zero by 2050. And most recently, we just announced the zero-emission vehicles that are going to be produced in Oakville, the largest such facility for Ford Motor Company of Canada. in North America, actually. So that's a point of pride. And so these are examples of our government playing an active role to accelerate investments, to create the right incentives for additional investments going forward, and weaving this together as part of the broader economic policy that will create jobs and growth in the economy as well. And I think that's an important takeaway, is that it's not simply about our sustainability and environmental policies, but this is very much also connected with our economic policies, and the fact that by 2040, 6,000 jobs, both indirect and direct jobs, will be connected to SMR technologies, as well as $2 billion contribution to our overall economy, is a testament to the potential this will have for Canadians right across the country, as mentioned by Seamus, in Alberta, Saskatchewan, New Brunswick, and Ontario, just to name a few provinces.
Merci. Thank you. Our next question is from Emma Green with the Globe and Mail. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
Yeah, g'day, Minister. This one's for Minister O'Regan. When it comes to SMRs, I'm wondering if you can speak a little more specifically about how they might fit into other energy industries, specifically coming from the Alberta perspective. When we talk about oil and gas, how they will fit into that in order to kind of lower emissions as a whole, and more broadly, how you kind of balance that with the loss of fossil fuel use going forward.
Good question. I think our roadmap, when it comes out in November, I think we'll be able to answer more of those questions. But I mean, I think it's fair to say a few things. I think SMR technology, because it's modular and small, and conceptually some of the designs that we're looking at are almost like micro small nuclear reactors. Those roughly about 5 megawatts. They can be used in areas that may not have reliable electricity, and where remote areas in northern areas where transmission is an issue. I mean, just getting them on the grid. We're a ways away from that, and frankly, we would want to make sure that the technology is tried, true, and tested. There are a number of brownfield sites, and sites either near existing facilities that may be, the first initial candidates. There is huge industrial potential, perhaps in the oil patch. I think my colleague Sonia Savage and Premier Kenny have already alluded to this, that it could be a way to further electrify and therefore lower the emissions in the oil sands. There is great potential, therefore, for remote and for northern parts of this country. There is a great deal of flexibility with SMRs that we don't have, obviously, with much larger, reactors of up to 1,400 megawatts, for instance. And it's that mobility that could prove to be very competitive for resource extractive industries in helping them further lower their GHGs.
And when it comes into this roadmap that's coming out, are you going to combine it with the hydrogen one? Because you're running a bit behind on that one as well.
Well, we're trying to get it right. And we're also, trying to consult as extensively as we can with stakeholders. There is no question, and you're quite right, that many of these roadmaps will interweave. And if you haven't read Generation Energy, which my predecessors, Amarjeet Sohi and Jim Carr, effectively put together, you'll see that, obviously these things do all interweave. So while we have a roadmap for SMRs, and we'll have a roadmap for hydrogen, one will definitely be looking to the other. And all of this is part of, I guess, a weave of different energy sources that we are going to need. It's interesting, and Navdeep probably finds the same. When we talk about the solutions that we are going to need in order to reach net zero by 2050, there is not any one thing, but there's a whole host of essential things. Nuclear is one of them. Hydrogen, we believe to be another one. Home efficiencies, or retrofits and commercial retrofits, we believe are hugely important. In fact, retrofits of residential and commercial retrofits The IEA, the International Energy Agency, calls it the hidden fuel. Worldwide, it would take us to about 40% of our Paris targets. That's just in retrofits and saving that energy. So there's a whole host of things. And sometimes I find when I'm giving a speech to a certain group involved, whether it be in hydrogen or whether it be in nuclear, I will say to them, we haven't found a roadmap to net zero without hydrogen, but we also haven't found a road to net zero without nuclear. We haven't found a roadmap to net zero without, building up our electric grid. We'll need all of it. We will need all of it. But what SMRs what we believe will be able to potentially do as well is be a good backdrop for renewables. As renewables will ramp up in peak hours, you'll have a good baseline there with SMRs, with nuclear, which will just accentuate smart grid technology and accentuate the effectiveness of renewables.
If I may, just to add on to what Seamus said, the energy policies that he's highlighted really speak to our industrial policies and how well they're woven together and connected. So this is really about leveraging the Canadian advantage, understanding the resource sector that we have and how do we help transition that to not only a low carbon future, but also make sure that we can export those solutions abroad. And this complements our ability to put a price on pollution, to provide predictability for businesses, transparency in our regulatory processes. And this broader framework now enables investors to make the investments and allows us to, again, achieve our 2030 and 2050 targets, and very much part of our broader economic policies, which are connected to that as well.
I'll just add to what Navdeep said. Sitting here in this kind of makeshift studio in St. John's, I'm attending, as he has been too, international meetings all the time, of course, without leaving our respective offices in Canada. But whether it's the International Energy Agency or the G20 or IRENA, which is in charge of renewables globally, they look at Canada with a great deal of envy. There's no other democracy in the world that has the plethora and the variety of natural resources and energy sources that we have. I mean, third biggest in hydroelectricity, fourth biggest producer of oil and gas. We're tier one nuclear. We're leaders in smart grids, leaders in wind power, leaders in solar, and we'll take advantage of all of it. And we want to build up, potentially, our expertise in each of those areas so that we can export to the world, so that we can provide solutions to the world, made in Canada solutions to the world.
Thank you. Merci. Once again, please press star 1 at this time if you have a question. De nouveau, n'hésitez pas à appuyer sur étoile 1 pour toute question. There are no further questions registered at this time.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. Again, I want to thank my colleague, Seamus O'Regan, and Simon as well from Terrestrial Energy. Today's announcement is a testament to our commitment to SMRs, and we look forward to working on this solution, as we've said, to position ourselves to meet our 2030 and 2050 environmental targets, as well as create jobs and opportunities for Canadians across the country. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Merci.
Thank you, ministers.